Montari, Enkelman half-saved it, but it's turned in. Kanu has got it this time. It's Pompey chimes of Wembley joy. His famous old club have at last another triumph to celebrate, and Harry Redknapp, in his first experience of a major occasion, is a Wembley winner.
The takeover has been agreed. Portsmouth are the new Chelsea.
No one had any reason to doubt that he wasn't a multi-billionaire.
The wages the players were getting were extortionate.
The first amount was 2 million, and before I knew it, it snowballed to 17.
Nobody would have touched us with a barge pole. We were toxic.
Why has somebody got to do it? Why can't you do it? Why can't we do it?
It was time to call a halt to a dictatorial ownership.
This is going to be the one time where we could actually end up putting Portsmouth Football Club into the hands of the people that love it most, the fans.
If you have drive, enthusiasm, talent, a belief in what you're doing and incurable optimism, there's nothing that can't be done.
Well, I'm delighted to be back at Fratton Park again. My name's Colin Farmery and I'm executive producer of Our Club, the movie, and it's with great pleasure I've got the privilege of interviewing the Chief Executive of Portsmouth Football Club, Mark Catlin. Yeah. I think to begin with, and to put the film into some sort of context, actually it'd be quite interesting to find out, how did you get involved in football, Mark? Give us a bit of your background and sort of bring us up to where you sort of got involved in football. How did that happen?
Well, I've always been a lover of football as a sport, and an avid fan growing up. It's a sport I love and would always take every opportunity to watch it, even if it wasn't my own team. Sometimes if you get an offer to go and watch a game, I'd always go and watch it. I just love being in and around the whole football environment. Never really thought of it as something that I'd take much further than a hobby. I suppose now you could argue it was a hobby, but so I've developed my own businesses over the years, got involved when I was living in Spain, setting up a telecoms business out there. The local club was about to go bust. I stepped in to help save. It wasn't a lot of money. It was a equivalent of a Conference South club, CD Javier at the time. It was about to go bust. I stepped in, saved it. Didn't really think a lot of it. I did that because my boy was playing. He was only young at the time, 11, 12. He was playing in one of the younger youth teams there. And so I got involved primarily to help save the club and enjoyed it. Got elected as president a few months later. Had 3 great years. Then Sky Sports did a documentary called La Lower Liga, because we had Kenny Brown as a manager. Club was doing really well on and off the pitch. We had a great expat following out there, which was quite unique. So it made a bit of a story on Sky. And as a result, I got a call from Bury Football Club in 2008, I believe it would be, somewhere around there, saying they were in all sorts of trouble even then. Would I fancy going in to help them? They didn't have no money, and I had to make a small investment to get on the board. And I did that. Had 3 good years there where we cleared the debt. Achieved a promotion up to League One and turned the club into profit. And I was looking for another challenge really at that point, and there wasn't any bigger challenge than Portsmouth at the time that was, on the verge of being liquidated.
Well, I think that that's quite interesting really, because in the noughties, obviously you're out in Spain, you're involved in football there. But I mean, were you aware of Portsmouth in the Premier League and what was going on at Portsmouth at the time? What was it like as an outsider looking in on what was going on at Pompey?
So really financially, no, I didn't take a lot of interest in what was going on whilst I was living in Spain. It was more, I had a friend out there that was a Portsmouth fan, and because I was running the Spanish club at the time, he was sort of thought I had these connections where I could get him tickets for the final, for the FA Cup final, and obviously I couldn't. And so he's a really good friend of mine, and he was a massive Pompey fan. And so I knew about the club and followed them because of that. And we used to banter when they did well or didn't do so well at the time, and because obviously I was a West Ham fan as well. And so when I come back to the UK, it was really in that last year when I was at Bury that it started to unravel the financial situation at Portsmouth, and I'd kept a little bit of an eye on it as something, what a challenge that would be. I'd love to get involved, and ultimately then when I'd left Bury and I was sat at home. It was probably 2 months after I left Bury that I sort of thought, yeah, it looks like it's going to get liquidated. I'm going to see if they need any help. Spoke to Trevor Birch, who I knew through a mutual friend. Spoke to Ian McInnes, and I was straight down here and offering my services. And then, as you know, worked for 8-9 months behind the scenes with the presidents, the trust, you know, great camaraderie, you know. Hopefully at that point I got a little bit of respect from the fans, where you start to get to know people like yourself, and you realise I was just in it for the love of it. And yeah, as I say, thankfully we managed to turn it around. A great team effort from everyone, and save the club and embark on its new era under fan ownership.
So I think just to get the time scale on this, I mean, it was probably around about sort of like August, September 2012. Would that be about right? Yeah, so that was the time. I seem to remember well, I met you first time I met you, I think, was in what was now in the Montgomery Lounge, I think, as I recall. There was a meeting in there. So that 2012-13 season and all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes then, I mean, what was your role? I mean, what were you doing at that time?
I think it's fair to say, because there was Ken Brown as the acting chief exec and Trevor as the administrator, and because I'd had 3 years already in football, in a senior position and being a director, I sort of had a little bit of trust amongst them, and Trevor knew me to a degree. So I think that helped, where I could bridge the gap between, like, I got on great straight away with Ian McInnes, Ashley Brand, yourself, amongst many others, and Much Parney, McWilliams, you can keep reeling off the names. So I'd sort of, where they were, and this is no disrespect to Trevor or to Ken at the time, like, everyone else was just fans trying to buy a football club, you know, like get the keys to the sweet shop as such, and because I'd been in football and had a bit of a history and built quite a few relationships, I sort of could bridge that gap a little bit. So Trevor was really good in allowing me to work with Ken, and I learned a lot from Ken Brown during that period as well. It's great, did a great job while he was here, in my opinion, you know, and so I was able to bridge that gap a little bit, where, because I'm lucky enough to have my own business in Spain where it doesn't require any of my attention, so I've got a revenue coming in. I can literally come in here at 7, 8 in the morning, be greeted by Deb, work with Ken, work with Trevor, work with Ian, work with Ashley, work with everyone else that was associated at that time. So yeah, that was really where I think I came into it a little bit, and hopefully played some small part in bridging the divide.
And I mean, in that period, I mean, what was the high for you and what was the low? Can you kind of, thinking back over that time?
There was a start with the low. The low was definitely, I believe it was somewhere around Christmas, where we thought the deal was going to happen, and it went to court, and it was either adjourned or something happened where it was another delay. And at that point it looked like it could all unravel from memory. And I remember Ian McInnes specifically, and a few of the others, were needing to write quite substantial cheques at that point to keep the whole thing going, or the club would have been liquidated. It was that close.
And I think that, you know, I think that's often an understated kind of thing, isn't it? Around those individuals that wrote those cheques at the time. Without them, there wouldn't be Portsmouth Football Club, would there?
Exactly right. And they weren't, from how the deal panned out, that was converted, I believe, into shares, but there was no guarantee they were going to get any recompense via the shares or anything. It was just literally writing a cheque, knowing that within another few weeks, through events outside of their control, cheques that were being written for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, could just disappear. So I think all the way along this, I've always said that the club, everyone owes a great deal of indebtedness, not financially, emotionally, to people that took that, you know, view at the time and actually put pen to paper, causing, as you well know, frictions within families at the time. Like, what are you doing? You know, in 2-3 weeks the club could be liquidated, and you just lost all that money. So fair, you know, absolute credit to those doing that, and the fans that continued to raise money during that period as well, stick by the whole process as it was at that time. And but my low point was that December, because I know there were serious conversations about, do we go on, or and Ian McInnes would never let you know, it's like he wouldn't let anything beat him like that. So he was really at the forefront, along with everyone else, but like really his hair going everywhere and banging the table going, we're not going to let this happen. Yeah.
Well, I think he was very much a leader in that. Yeah, that, he was a figurehead, and that was his kind of role.
It was the right, do you know what it was for Ian? In my opinion, the right person at the right time.
Yeah,
absolutely the right person at the right time. What was needed? Someone who would like draw his sabre out and go charging at the opposition. He'll love me for saying that, by the way, I'm sure. But that is typical. I mean, we have got a couple of nicknames for each other, and how I sort of refer to Ian is in that role of someone that would get on his horse, draw his sabre and go charging at the enemy, even probably knowing he's going to get beat, you know, but taking one for the team type thing, and that is Ian all over.
So what about the high?
Well, the high for me, there was, funny we're playing Crewe this weekend, I believe it was Crewe away when we won after a 23 game, was it 23 game losing? I can't remember,
over 20.
And it was like, when's the win gonna come? And that memory sticks with me, the victory, and then naturally the day in court when it all started to, you know, come good and finally made the breakthrough, and you know, the fans took control of the club.
And you know, you obviously became chief executive of the club soon after that. I mean, at that particular time, I mean, what was your ambition for the club, or what was your vision for the club at that time? How did you see it panning out?
Well, at that time, it was still very much a case of we didn't have any ambitions, I believe, more than trying to keep the club going for that first year or two, because the words of Trevor Birch was still ringing in my ears at the time. Like, you think you've won the war here. You haven't. You've won a very small battle, because the war's just about to start. And the war is, you are still many millions in debt and you're still hemorrhaging money. And really all the money that the fans raised and the president's managed to raise, which was substantial, really just got the deal done. It didn't protect us moving forward. And something I learned, probably underestimated, was that despite all of that, there was still this massive aspiration from the club that we are bigger than, at the time we was in free fall, gone into League Two, we are bigger than this, we need to get out of this league. Trying to marry those aspirations with the reality of the budget we had at the time was really difficult, I have to tell you.
I mean, and did that surprise you that the fans still had that expectation, given what had happened?
Yeah, I think that's more the word expectation than aspiration, actually, in that, we had, as you know, we'd come out of administration, we were still, it was about 7 or 8 million in debt, losing $1 million plus. So you're trying to sort that out with a club that had been in free fall from the Prem down to League Two and was still falling. No training base, no kit deal, there were so many things to address. But at that point, the club had been saved, and a huge amount of the fan base immediately turned their attentions onto the pitch. And it was like, why aren't we winning games? We're Portsmouth, we're in League Two. And I remember saying at the time that our budget was really poor that first year or two in League Two. It wasn't even a top half of the table budget. It was just literally the bare minimum to keep the club going, so we could knock down the debts and turn the club into profit in as quick a time as possible.
So are there any lessons you think that you learned quickly on the job?
Yeah, don't go in and try and save a football club. No, in all seriousness, I loved it. There was still a lot of camaraderie around at that point, which I love, and going to games, and the vast majority of fans stuck by what the club was trying to do and could see it. And did I learn a lot? Not that I didn't know already, in regards of communication is key. Just be honest, on the front foot. And how many times have we spoken about this over the years? Yeah, we just try and get out there, tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you can't go that far wrong, and people either accept it or they don't. They like it or they don't, but as long as you tell the truth and you just deal in facts and not, hypothetical scenarios or people's how they see the truth in a certain way. You just stick to the facts is really what I learned during that period. You can't go far wrong then.
For sure, and I mean, talking about communication, that sort of brings us round to the film, because I think it was probably around about the March of that season we probably did the first filming shots of the film. I think we came down for a game here against, or Barney, the filmmaker, came down, the director came down for a game against York, which I think was probably Richie Barker's last home game, I think, but we won't go into that. But it's when the idea of the film was pitched to you, what did you think?
I think it was good to document really what a club such as Portsmouth, you know, I've been a big backer of the film, Colin, you know that all the way through. Yeah, I've never once said we shouldn't be doing it, you know. I'm just having a conversation in the office below, completely separate to this, that there's so much in football that is kept as a secret society that, look, I'm all for commercial, keeping things, you know, commercially confidential, you know. Should people know what, I'm looking at Domino's Pizzas, pay for their sponsorship? No. But should we be telling people, if we know that there's 233,000, found off the Plymouth News before, that watch the game on Monday night on Sky? Yes, that's great, you know. Get the prize monies out there, what the FA pay in winning rounds of the FA Cup, or, you know, the EFL trophy. There's a lot of things that we as an industry should be more transparent on, that I can't, why is it such a closed shop that we can't disclose more to the fans? I like to think of myself as open, honest, transparent, without, I would never want to jeopardise a commercial deal. So if I say it's commercially sensitive, it really is. But I do think that being open, honest, transparent, being on the front foot is one of the best things that you could be. So it goes back to a fly on the wall sort of documentary at a club and explaining it and putting it out there forever for the history of the club of that period. I've never seen any issue with that whatsoever.
Indeed, yeah. I think it's an interesting one. I think when I came and started working in football, I think if I had £1 for everyone who said to me, "Oh, we don't do that in football," I'd be quite a rich man now. I think in that way. But so I mean, we started doing the filming for the film, sort of like Pompey are struggling in League Two. But things did kind of turn around. Obviously, Paul Cook turned up in the summer of 2015. So just kind of take us through how the thing began to motor, because I think that's probably looking back what kind of happened.
I think there was a. How can I put this? And I include myself slightly in this as being one of the outsiders. Through what had happened to Pompey over a number of years, I think they become a little bit closed mentality, as it was Pompey against the world. Like there was, I remember when I first got involved, there was a massive fervour to have someone they classed as being Pompey as manager in Guy Whittingham. You know, he's one of us, he should get the job. In all positions it's a Pompey fan, he or she gets the club, they have to get the job. Do you know what I mean? I think we went into that little bit of a bubble in ourselves. And don't get me wrong, when outside of that, the second attempt, because it didn't work with Guy. I mean, as I always said now, I look back at that period with Guy, on reflection, given the fact that he didn't have a huge budget, given the fact he had to build a team from scratch, he didn't have any training facilities, but I think it was the Scunthorpe game, I can't remember, where Guy walked always up to the Fratton end after a game and applauded him, and you know, I won't go back into what was said, but it wasn't a great reception he got from the Fratton end. And I remember Ian saying at the time he's never known that in his time here, to get, like, for one of their own to get that type of reaction. And we met with Guy, just had a feeling it was time for a change. With the board had a feeling, everyone did at that time, it looked like it, because he'd had that long period as well when we was in administration, so his record on the back of that as manager was pretty poor, and a huge part of that wasn't his own fault. It was just what he'd inherited during the administration, people not getting paid as such, and, you know, bringing in mercenaries on monthly contracts to get by. Came out of admin, massive expectation, as we've said. I think it was unanimous that Guy got the job and was given a real chance, and it was tough. He had to build a team from scratch, a club that was in free fall, with that losing mentality over a number of previous years, and it was tough to turn it around. So looking back now, I have so much sympathy for Guy, and I think everyone needs to realise the job that he did during the administration period, and then even coming out just trying to keep the club ticking over. Then you go on to Richie coming in. You know, time, bright young manager, and looked a good appointment, but as I'd already worked with him, I was probably already on a hiding to nothing there. If it had gone well, like Richie would have been a great manager. If it went bad, then it was my appointment and it was all my fault. So I was always going to take that one, I suppose, on the chin. It didn't work out with Richie, and really for the same reasons.
Yeah.
He had little or no budget. He had pretty much the same squad, tried to make some changes in January, but it was a club that was really, we were just drastically trying to arrest the decline. And then Andy came in, you know, did an Ian McInnes, pulled out his sabre, charged at the opposition. We went on a mad run, and he kept, obviously rightly so, was given the job. For the following year, he wanted it. It would have been very difficult to bring another manager in at that point, because they'd have gone, why didn't we keep Andy? Why didn't we keep Andy? Because he had such a great end to the season. And really from there, the club started to work its way back up. Even though in that first year under Andy it was tough and whatever, yeah, I think that was really the bottom of as it got at that point. But I think by that point the board, late in that second year when it looked like Andy was going to leave, it was very, very clear that, you know, if we wanted to get out of this league, because we'd turned it around slightly by then as well. Financially we'd addressed the losses, you know, we cleared the debts, or was on the verge of clearing the debt. So we were looking up for the first time instead of looking down. And in all my businesses, you know, Ian's, Ashley's experience, everyone else, everyone on the board, you're only really as good as your manager. So it was time at then to really, we had money, we were going to invest in the manager, even if we had to pay a fee for him, which we did in regards of Paul Cook. So invested in Paul, you know, Paul had success elsewhere. And really that was then the start of our way back up, you know. And
what do you think Cookie brought to the mix? What did he change?
Well, predominantly during that summer he had money to spend for the first time, so he brought in a lot of good quality players. The budget went up quite a lot from the first 2 years what Andy, Richie and Guy had to deal with. But saying that, you can have the biggest budget in the world, you still got to have a good manager. And what did he bring? He brought, I think he was the perfect fit for this club, in regards of, you know, he's got that Scouse accent, he can communicate well with fans, they get him, he brought passion, he brought commitment, he brought a certain style, and he was the right fit at the right time, yeah.
I think I remember when Chesterfield came down here, I think it was the second home game that we played in League Two, Cookie was manager here at Chesterfield, and I remember he was out and about looking around Fratton Park at that time, and you kind of felt then, yeah, he fancied that job.
He did, yeah. And I go back to it that, you know, it didn't end how I think either of us would have liked it to have ended when he left the club 2 years later, but he did what he was brought in to do. He got us promoted. I liked his style of football. Ironically, a lot didn't. A lot that sat here in this box around me on a match day, I used to get dogs abuse from him. It got quite heated at times where I was defending Paul and what he was trying to do. So, but I've got, what did he bring? He's a very good manager. He's left here and got and proved that again with Wigan. He'll go and get another job somewhere, another club, no problem at all. And yeah, it was just really the start of our climb back up, if that makes sense.
And I think that kind of brings us as well, because without giving too much away in the film, you know, Pompey do win the league on the last day of the season. So can you
not give away the ending, have I?
So can you just from an insider's perspective, what was that run-in at the end of that season like? Because obviously we lost. You know, we mentioned Crewe. We lost at home to Crewe 1-0. So from an insider's perspective, you know, promotion is still there up for grabs. But nevertheless, you know...
Well, it started to really... It was in the last third of the season. I think that was when there was the big bust-up. That's all come out now in the changing room and whatever. And so it sort of... Paul, when you get someone like Paul who wears his heart on his sleeve, you can't. There's a famous saying that I always love. So Roy Keane at Manchester United, I used to love the way he played. He was always getting sent off, yellow cards, getting into trouble, getting suspended, but I loved his passion, his commitment, and he just literally put everything on the line. And someone said to Fergie, you need to have a word with him about, he can't keep getting sent off, can't keep getting yellow cards, can't keep getting suspended. And he went, but if I take that out of his game, I haven't got Roy Keane anymore. Which is true. And that's the same with Paul. Yeah. If you want someone passionate, who cares, who loves the game, loves the club he's with, going crazy, you're going to get the negatives of that as well. And yeah, I do think that really those last 2-3 months, it looked like it had all started to get on top, I think, of the club, on top of Paul, on top of the players, just proving too much. And it culminated in the game here, which was the one before the Crawley game, was it? Who was that?
It was against Crewe, I think.
That was against Crewe. It was against Crewe.
Yeah.
Where I remember looking down there and Paul was sort of looking at other people as they were hurling abuse at him. People behind me were hurling abuse at me, Ian McInnes. It was really come to a point. And then there was a few, well, it was just really, I think everyone dusted ourselves down after that game, and we had Crawley on the Tuesday. And I don't know what it was. It was just like, look, we were falling out of the playoffs at that time from memory, and it was just a case of, look, we've got to get ourselves together here. We're going to blow it for another year. And then I always remember, and it was Michael Dahl, one of his first tackles. It was like he got stuck in on someone and basically turned to the team, went, come on. And then I remember seeing a big French flag being waved in the corner that I hadn't seen before, and we're on our way started, and I just felt, I don't know, something was different at that point. And then from then on, we just went on that marvellous run and ended up winning the title.
Yeah, it was, yeah. No, it was some fantastic memories. And obviously, around that time as well, we're on that cusp of moving over from community ownership to Tornante's ownership. I mean, what did Tornante see in Portsmouth Football Club, do you think?
I think, obviously still working with them now, exactly the same principles, that they would rather take a sleeping giant of a club with a passionate fan base where there's unlimited upside than a club that was very well run but on limited gates and there wasn't a lot of upside. They'd rather back themselves to take on that sleeping giant and to make the right investments to really fulfill its ambition. And as we've often said, Michael set the strategy out very clear at the Guildhall what that would mean, the change from fan ownership into Tornante ownership. And let's be honest, there was very little change. There has been very little change. That was what Michael promised.
Because I think what do you think the key benefits of community ownership were? And I suppose to take that question onto a stage further, and you've alluded to this already, how have the club taken that spirit or ethos of community ownership forward?
I don't think anything's changed. I still do my Q&As. I'm still the chief exec. Kenny's still the manager that was elected under the old board. We still order the principals working with the community. Actually, I think the bonds with the community has grown even stronger. The investment in Fratton Park has continued, but he's carried on with the same ethos and principles that we had under fan ownership, which was the self-sustaining model. Yeah, but we would be a club very much at the heart of the community. It wasn't about throwing money crazily at the club in an attempt to achieve short-term gratification on the pitch. Everything's going to be done sustainably, methodically, hard work. Everything that was instilled in the club and what attracted Michael to it under fan ownership stays exactly the same. I mean, literally after this, I've got an hour to prepare, and we've got the Heritage and Advisory Board meeting, which has got, it's got Claire Martin, it's got the president, it's got Ashley Brown on it. So there's not a lot really changed other than the big saving at this moment in time, obviously because of COVID, which has, you know, taken every club, every business, every household has had an effect. It's that we have thankfully got that stability of knowing that we've got Tonanti ownership behind us to support us if needed.
So one final question, just to round it off. Over the community ownership years, what was the high spot for you?
The promotion, definitely. Probably...
Would that be Notts County or Cheltenham?
I was going to say probably Notts County. Winning the title was the cherry on the cake. Getting promotion was what we'd all set out to achieve, like those years previously when it actually looked for quite long periods we'd end up in the National League. And by the way, just because we're Portsmouth doesn't mean we couldn't have ended up there. I look back now on that first year and actually to a degree consider it an achievement. We didn't get relegated into the National League, and if you look at Luton's and clubs like that, it does happen. It happens quite often that if you're on that losing streak, you can go, just keep sliding. There's so much history of that, and we managed to address it, didn't end up there, and yeah, I think the high point for me was Notts County away rather than the Cheltenham victory at home that won us the title.
Mark Catlin, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Colin.
Thank you.